Hello, welcome back to A Guide to Holistic New York. We have as our second guest today Dr. Gerald Epstein, psychiatrist, who is the developer of a technique called Wakingdream therapy. Welcome to A Guide to Holistic New York. Dr. Epstein, what is Wakingdream therapy anyway? Really, what is, I've never heard that before.
Thanks, Jerry, for having me on the show. Wakingdream therapy is a technique that I've developed over the past 6 years in which tried to provide a synthesis of thinking, feeling, and behavior using a capacity that's present in most of us called imagination. And imagination is a process as well as a level of reality that we can address ourselves to, which hasn't been very much taught here in our culture, but one that we can have direct access to in waking life through the vehicle of the dream. So Wakingdream therapy is essentially carrying out the night dream in waking life, so that the individual is asked to go back into his dream while in the course of a session, while he's awake, and to explore the dream and to describe his experience in this exploration.
How did you discover this, or where did you discover it? What occurred for you to be able to have this particular type of thing develop?
Well, my own experience was essentially that after I completed my formal psychoanalytic training at New York Psychoanalytic Institute, I was not fully satisfied with the direction of psychoanalysis, because I felt that there should be a way to synthesize Eastern thought with traditional Western psychotherapeutic technique, which traditional psychoanalysis has not provided. And in my quest, I happened to be traveling, and I was in Jerusalem, and by a happenstance instance, I was put in contact with a woman named aboulker-muscat, who was a practitioner of a form of treatment that she called Wakingdream, and had been practicing for about 35 years. And in my contact with her, I asked her if this was a possible way of synthesizing the two, Eastern thought and Western psychotherapeutic technique, and she felt that this was perhaps an answer to my quest. So in that regard, I began my training with her and my own personal experience in Wakingdream.
So did you have a something with her in reference to a Wakingdream? Did she do a Wakingdream with you?
No, we did more than a Wakingdream. I went through the whole course of work in Wakingdream, which is essentially a transformational work. The direction that Wakingdream takes you in is to tap your creative potential, and through the tapping of one's creative potential, it aids in the transformation of one's entire being, and also aids in a synthesis of one's entire being, which really is a healing phenomenon. It's really a way of integrating and synthesizing and healing body, mind, and spirit.
Now, in a Wakingdream, how do you work with a person? How did she work with you? Laying you on a bed, or sit you in a chair, or stand, or close your eyes, or open eyes?
The way that we work is to sit in a chair in a straight posture.
Why in a chair?
Well, the source of Wakingdream work comes from the traditions of the Near East and of the Mediterranean region. And its roots reach back to Egypt and to ancient Israel. The sources for this work are both found in the Egyptian teachings and also in the Jewish mystical teachings of Kabbalah. In ancient Egypt, the pharaoh was felt to be a divinely sent being by God to transmit the work of the divine on earth. And if you notice in the pharaohs, in any pictures you may see about pharaohs, you notice that they're always sitting on a throne, straight up posture, with their arms on the arms of the throne and their legs planted firmly on the ground. And in Jewish mystical tradition, there's a one direction called throne mysticism, which has to do with Ezekiel's vision, where he saw the throne of God. So we tried to simulate the posture, and believing that man is really the repository of the interplay between the heaven and earth.
So after you were seated, what else proceeded to get you into the waking dream?
Well, then there's a.
I mean, with you personally, that first experience.
My way, the way that happened with me is the way that we do it with anybody that would come to do waking dream work. Essentially, we start out by doing a form of work called guided exercise. Guided exercise is where the therapist provides the motif that the individual will enter into. Waking dream is the motif that the individual sets for himself through his night dream. So his night dream determines where he will take his journey. So the guided exercise is the prelude, the preparation for waking dream.
So how did she get you into this waking dream state?
So she asked me if I was interested in pursuing waking dream to see through my own experience if it was the path that I was looking for to synthesize these two directions. Mm-hmm. So I decided to embark upon this work, and I started by doing a guided exercise. And in the guided exercise, she asked me to leave her garden and to descend a staircase. As you may or may not know, Jerusalem is full of staircases that lead into valleys and into gardens and things like that. And she asked me to imagine myself leaving her garden and imagine myself going down the staircase after doing a very light relaxation, a light meditational relaxation to shut out external stimuli, so that I would be in a very light sort of trance state. It's really a meditational state. Mm-hmm. And then I would imagine myself going down the stairs into a garden where I found a flower, and I was asked if I wished to pick the flower, which I did, and I then described the flower in very great detail using my senses, describing the touch of it, the taste. Yes, it's extremely important, because we feel that the way that you get to other levels of reality, be they in meditational levels, waking dream levels, other levels of reality, your senses take you there. Just as your senses have you find the waking world, your senses also take you into the dream world, and they have you find the dream world, and also have you find the imagination world. From our point of view, these worlds, the dream world and the imagination world, are not constructed by you. They are there. They are levels of reality that are equal in valence to waking life reality. Depending on the circumstances, you are able to find these various levels of reality.
So in your dream here that she had you into, you were picking this flower?
Right. So I didn't essentially construct this. I didn't make this up. I was there. Mm-hmm. My senses took me there, and I follow suit, whatever that I
And other people would have something maybe different, but follow this particular procedure.
Yes, there are various set motifs that people can enter into just as preparatory work. Mm-hmm. So I found the flower, I described it in great detail, I smelled it, I counted the petals, I felt the stem, I tasted the sap, and I listened to some birds that were chirping around me. I listened to the wind rustling.
How long?
And then this whole exercise took about 10 to 15 minutes, coming back after experiencing the flower, looking into the center of the flower but not going into it, and then coming back into the concrete life, which means to have your senses come back into the everyday life.
How did this affect you?
Well, following this experience, I had a dream. Mm-hmm. And very commonly, people will have dreams after these preparatory exercises. This is a way of stimulating dreams. But these dreams are a very unusual variety. They're dreams that are very vivid, highly colorful, but particularly contain a lot of ascending or descending elements.
And that's very important?
Very important.
Why is it so important?
Well, the work of waking dream is really a work of freedom. And the reason why it's so important that an individual use his own night dream is because somebody isn't setting the motif, he's deciding on the motif, so his freedom is maintained. So Waking Dream is a work of freedom, a way of overcoming the ordinary habitual activities of everyday life.
This essential, decentral thing, what's so different with that in reference to regular psychiatrists?
Because everyday ordinary life is conducted on the horizontal level. We're looking at each other horizontally, we walk horizontally toward each other, we interact horizontally.
Linear in a way, maybe.
Linear thinking, linear thought is said to be horizontal. So what we've done here is change the axis from horizontal to vertical. And vertical, traditionally, cross-culturally and transculturally, is the direction of freedom. So by ascending, you're making connection with other levels of reality, what we may call different levels, some people like to call it higher levels. And as you descend to the center. The notion of the center is always connected with the vertical axis. So as you go to the center, you're really delving into the center of self, and you're finding what truly there is about the potentials that exist for you. And once you see the potentials in this imaginal reality, and you enact it, because you're exploring this reality and you're describing it, once you enact this reality, you can then bring it back into waking life. So the imaginal life influences and informs your everyday life. Once you see other possibilities and other options for yourself, then you're not trapped or stuck or bound to the ordinary habitual activities of your everyday life. And in that way, a transformation then can occur in your entire being, in the way you perceive life, your interpersonal relationships, your feelings about yourself.
This dream, then, you said you were ascending and descending. What else?
Oh, yeah. So the dream was one which was a very odd, unusual dream, which many people describe when they have dreams following the guided exercise experience, was that I was descending a staircase which was composed really of triangular elements. The stairs were triangular shape, with a point laying on the base of the next triangle, and then the apex laying on the point of the next one, until I got to the final step, which was turned in an entirely different direction along one other angle. It was not the same as the other steps. But as I got down the steps, I heard a number of people were descending with me. And there was a theater that we were all going to. But apparently the theater had to be gotten to by going up some stairs. But as I got down the stairs, I found a small Benny Goodman quartet playing. And I've never had a dream like that. And in the quartet, Lionel Hampton was particularly prominent playing the vibes. And it seems as though jazz singers were coming and were trying out for the small band. But meanwhile, up in the theater, the Benny Goodman big band, swing band, was playing. And Jimmy Rushing was there, and Frank Sinatra. Those are two that were very prominent that I remember from the dream. So I went through this. And after I then relayed the dream, then we went into a waking dream, because from the dream we focus on an ascending element of the night dream, because that's the root of freedom. So the individual then chooses the significant element. He may not choose an ascending or descending element, so you have to go with him. If you let him go and let him explore, he will find an ascending or descending element, because people will naturally find it, because people naturally want freedom. So they will find ascending and descending elements and let them do the exploration. So here the ascending element the descending element presented itself. So that point is then selected, and I went on to do further exploration, going up into the theater. And what happened from that dream, and doing a series of guided exercises in Waking Dream that extended from that, was that I changed the whole direction of my work, and my whole creative capacity in relation to my work as a psychiatrist completely
Are there many people doing this work now?
Yes, I teach it, and I've trained some people here in New York, both in the mental health profession, physicians and psychologists, social workers,
Is there a number someone could call, some number they could call to reach you? Or?
Yes, I can be reached in New York at 534-0155.
Have you read, made any papers or books or literature or anything on Waking Dreams?
Yes, I've written several articles have appeared recently, and I have a book coming out in March called Wakingdream Therapy, A Dream Process as Imagination, published by Human Sciences
What was that number
Press.
again? Because I didn't catch it myself, really, and I think you said it too fast, maybe.
In New York, 534-0155.
Can we look at these things that you have in your...
Sure.
What are these things here that you have? Is this some of the ways that they do waking dreams?
I wanted to give an example. In doing waking dream work, I asked the person to translate his work, that he's the exploration, the journey,
Hold a little higher.
into a written and drawn form. What we do here is use a waking dream notebook, which is essentially an unlined notebook with a vertical line down the center to divide the page into left and right. As you may or may not know, and we are now coming to the discovery that the brain is divided into two hemispheres, each having a specialized function. The left hemisphere is the thinking, linear, logical function, and the right hemisphere is the visual, gestaltic, pattern, holistic function.
So you have people do this after
So they do it because we want to balance left and right. They write what their experience was on the left side of the page, which simulates the brain, and the right side they draw the significant images corresponding to the text. And in this way, they concretize and actualize what is going on in their imaginal experience into waking life. When you do this, and I ask the individual then to look it over during the week, sort of his homework, and then he's to see what it says to him about potentials and possibilities. They're also looking it over may stimulate more dreams to occur related to the waking dream. So we make a connection between waking dream, and waking life.
We have just a little shot
Sure.
more time. So you could help people who have biological problems and psychological difficulties or want to get into spiritual practices with this waking dream?
Yes, the imagination work in general, waking dream is a particular form, and guided exercises are a treatment for both emotional and physical disorders. We don't see it as separate, really. It's one...
Well, I would like to...
it's a holistic problem.
Ask you back on the show, really, and do a whole show on this. I mean, with some of your colleagues, because it seems to be extraordinary, innovative, and I don't think that much people... I haven't heard such an exciting type of method of therapy.
Thank you. I'd love to. We use
do want to thank you for a most interesting discussion, and we're going to be coming back to talk to Ed Abdul, who is the president of the New York branch of the Theosophical Society, about theosophy. But first, a word from the Word Corner.